evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on Facebook, IG, X, and on Twitch. I am Bryson Carver. It's great to be with you on a Friday. We haven't done a Friday show in probably a month or so, so I figured, there's a lot of great NBA stories going on right now. This is almost an exclusively NBA show from start to finish, with some March Madness, obviously. To have this many NBA stories, with the Lakers on a roll, the Giannis news that dropped from Ramona Shelburne, who wrote a great piece on ESPN today, and then you have the added dynamic. There's basketball happening right now as we speak, including, by the way, with my beloved Tennessee Volunteers, who currently have a lead over the over Miami of Ohio, who was the last unbeaten team, lost the conference tournament, won their first 4 game against SMU. But as of right now, 12 minutes, 56 seconds to go. Looks like my Vols are going to cruise to a first-round W and then face Virginia on Sunday, and then we'll see what the heck happens. But we got tons to talk about in the show today. Going to get to Giannis Antetokounmpo in about about 20 minutes or so, I would say. The story Ramona dropped, Ramona Shelburne, one of the best in the business, that it looks like the Bucks management is going to have to force Giannis to make a decision on his future, not the other way around that we see with a lot of superstar players. Get to that in about 20 minutes. Also discuss before that, Cade Cunningham, just terrible news out of Detroit. Cade Cunningham is good. Initially looked like it was going to be top 5 for MVP. He's probably out for the rest of the regular season, and we'll see how much of the playoffs with a lung injury. We'll get to that in 12 minutes or so. Also going to touch on Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs, who are on a roll, who are the best team in the NBA right now. Discuss that later on the show. March Madness updates at the end of the show. I had to sneak a Warriors topic in there because it looks like Steph Curry is going to be back, and I think that's a good thing. Despite the fact the Warriors have a 0.000% chance of going anywhere, I think Steph Curry coming back is a good thing for this team. I'll explain that at the end of today's show. But first, since Wednesday's show, the LA Lakers have been on an absolute roll right now, in particular Luka Doncic. So last night, they beat the Miami Heat. Luka Doncic goes absolutely insane. The night before that, though, they go on the road, a second game in a row in Houston, and beat the Rockets. And by doing so, they have the tiebreaker over the Houston Rockets, which they also have, I believe, over the Denver Nuggets. Like, the Lakers look to have, unless they fall apart in the last month of the season, the inside track to the 3 seed, which would be big, right? Like, you could get home court advantage for the first round, and then the second round, you'd be facing either a Spurs team with minimal playoff experience. I'll get to that. I'll get to the Spurs later on the show. Or an Oklahoma City team that Luka has beaten in the playoffs before, albeit it was 2 years ago before the Thunder had won a title when Luka was still a Maverick. Different teams, different levels of experience there, but it's something at least Luka would feel good about. So against the Rockets, we'll show you just the performance from Luka Doncic. Here's what he did against Houston. He was unbelievable. A near 40-point triple-double, 40 points, 9 rebounds, 10 assists, shot 12 of 25 from the field, 7 of 17 from three-point range, 9 of 14 from the free throw line. But he didn't stop there. On the second night of a back-to-back in Miami, Luka Doncic goes nuclear in this game against the Heat. We'll show you this one. How about a 60-burger? Which, by the way, I actually saw this. This was very surprising to me. This is the first 60-point game by a Laker since Kobe Bryant's final game almost 10 years ago, which is shocking to me. Luka, 60, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 18 of 30 from the field, 9 of 17 from 3, including some insanely difficult, step-back jumpers, from the left wing, 15 of 19 from the free throw line. Luka Doncic was a man amongst boys last night. And Bam Adebayo, who obviously scored 83 last week, had a funny quote about, hey, it's not so easy. Some of us have scored 80, basically. So I hate that Bam's taking crap for his 83-point game, but that's another story for another day. Here's what I've learned, because I discussed on Monday's show their unbelievable last-second win over the Denver Nuggets, where Reeves misses the free throw, intentionally gets it back, gets a tying shot, Luka hits the game winner in OT. And I came out on Monday and said, Lakers are probably a little bit better than I thought, to their credit, and I still won't buy them as a contender. I have learned 2 things. Let's not say learned 2. I've learned one thing for sure, and another, to me, has just been reinforced about this team. And about one player in particular. The thing that has just been reinforced for me since Monday's show, where I said, yeah, still don't believe in the Lakers, is LeBron just loves basketball. Of course, you have the diving for the basketball at the end of the game against Denver, which shows you, hey, 41 years old, he didn't have to. It's game 66 or something. Like, he doesn't have to dive on the floor for that at his advanced age and stage. The oldest player in league history, longest, runway for a player in league history at 23 years. But LeBron against the Rockets the other night, against Houston, he missed one shot. He missed 13 of 14 from the field. 2 of 2 from 3, 2 of 3 from the free throw line. He missed one shot in the game against Houston, scored 30 points. And then against the Miami Heat, his former team, obviously, he had a triple-double, 19, 15, and 10. 15 rebounds for Bron is unbelievable this stage of his career. 8 of 12 from the field, so he's efficient too, while Luka was out there dropping 60. So for LeBron to play on a back-to-back, end of the season, when he was kind of talking after the game like, I feel fine now. I'm going to feel terrible in the morning because when you're 41 years old, 23 years in, it takes a lot out of your body to be able to play as many minutes as he does on an NBA floor, even as great of shape as he's in. And there were even anecdotes that Austin Reeves talked about after the game where he said, JJ Redick during a timeout, JJ Redick, coach of the Lakers, is saying, hey, if any of you guys, need a breather, let me know. I'll put you on the bench, give you 3-4 minutes to rest, come back in if you guys are tired. And LeBron, he piped up. He's like, I'm not tired. And Austin Reeves said in his head, I'm like, well, darn it, I'm not tired either. That's leadership. That's galvanizing the group around you. It's why LeBron took some bad teams to the finals, not just because of his individual greatness, but in terms of his leadership capabilities as well. Even when he's obviously not the same player he once was, he still brings that to a basketball team. So that I already knew. This last week, it just reinforced that. I have learned something about this Lakers team, mostly about Luka Doncic. He now, I think it would be crazy to say, has a legitimate shot to win league MVP. Now, if the season ended today, and if I had a vote for NBA's most valuable player, my vote would go to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. All right, he's shooting 55% from the field. He's second to Luka in scoring, but he obviously broke Wilt Chamberlain's record last week for the most consecutive 20-point scoring games in NBA history, which no modern player, I think the closest one to him is like Kareem, who's like 50 games behind. KD's somewhere in that category as well. Like it's to me, Shai didn't get enough. I've been hard on Shai for the foul baiting. I've never once questioned Shai can get anywhere he wants on the floor. It's why the foul baiting actually drives me crazy. It's because Shai can score at all three levels. He can get to the rim. He's a killer from the mid-range, and he's an excellent three-point shooter at this point in his career. If I had to vote for MVP, obviously I have a ballot. Number 2, by a hair, would be Victor Wembanyama. By a mile, the best defensive player in the league, and his offense has got better. His three-point shooting has gotten better. We'll talk about Wemby and the Spurs later on the show. Number 3 would be Luka Doncic. You say, well, what about Nikola Jokic? The man's averaging a triple-double. Listen, I didn't have a show back then, but when the whole Russell Westbrook triple-double thing was happening, I'm like, it's great. Is it something that is tangible as it pertains to winning? Like, is it? I don't know. I saw people were saying, oh, KD left, and that's why Westbrook deserved MVP. I don't know. I saw Westbrook get traded in 2019. Chris Paul takes over that team, and they're better. Whatever. Nikola Jokic has been awesome in his own right. The Nuggets right now are the 6th seed. I don't know what's up in Denver. Listen, I know they're a bad defense team. I do know that. They're a terrible clutch team. Some of that's on Jokic. You have Jokic 4, and then honestly, Cade Cunningham at 5. At this point, it's going to be Jaylen Brown because Cunningham's going to miss too many games. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But with what Luka's doing, show what Luka has done. The Lakers have won 8 straight games. Show what Luka has done in the last 8 games. I mean, this is sick. He's averaging 40.9, so 41 points a game. He's averaging 41, 9, and 7 in his last 8 games on 50% from the field and 42 from 3. You can't just ignore that. And I've been critical of Luka for his just outright refusal to play defense. I have, for his just intensity that he brings towards yelling at refs more so than getting back on the other end of the floor, both of which are legitimate concerns. Both of which were things that when he was traded from the Dallas Mavericks to the Lakers last year, folks were like, oh my gosh, see, this is why Nico Harrison made that move. That, and he's out of shape. Luka looks to be in decent shape now, by the way, but whines to the refs too much and is not a guy that you can trust to play defense or even try on defense. That's true. What's also true is, yeah, he's probably the most naturally gifted scorer in the league right now. And you can't just ignore that, especially when he's going for, again, a near 40-point triple-double in his last 8 games on 50% from the field. And the fact that the Lakers are winning too, that helps. So, to me, folks are ignoring the Lakers winning as it pertains to Luka's MVP case, and they're ignoring also the Nuggets losing, which would hurt Jokic's MVP case. So again, if I had to vote today, Shai, Wemby, then Luka. Oddly, the 1, 2, and 3 seeds right now in the West, but that's how I would vote it. And the Lakers are still not championship contenders. I'm just telling you right now, they're not. And the reason I say that is this. To me, OKC, San Antonio, because of what they bring on the defensive end of the floor, that as well as they bring in the offensive end of the floor, we'll get to the Spurs in about 20, 25 minutes. Those are the clear two favorites. I feel like it's a two-team race in the West. Respect to Minnesota, Denver, because they have Jokic, you give a puncher's chance. Houston, I'm completely out on. And the Lakers, they have Luka Doncic. He's been to a finals and another conference finals. You can't totally write them out yet. But remember, over the course, we saw this a year ago, over the course of a 7-game playoff series, when the team you're facing is focused on you and you alone. This is not the 4th game of a 5-game road trip. This isn't a back-to-back. No, we are focused directly on beating the team in front of us and advancing. And so what is Minnesota? What are the Nuggets? What are those teams? Houston, I would pick the Lakers over Houston, but what would those teams do? We're attacking number 77 every single trip down the floor. That's what the Timberwolves did last year. They wore Luka down. They wore LeBron down. LeBron is in as good a shape as anybody. He's still 41. He can be a great defender in spurts. He can be a better defender when he can defer offensively to, obviously, to Luka and also to Austin Reeves. But he's not the defender he once was. You're going to attack Luka. You're going to attack Austin Reeves. You're going to attack LeBron James. And God knows DeAndre Ayton is no rim protector. So that's, to me, the Lakers' ceiling is still second-round exit. If they get Houston the first round, I'm picking them without thinking twice because I don't buy the Rockets at all. If they get Denver, that feels like a 6 or 7 game series right there. And I honest to God don't know who I pick there because both are bad defensive teams. Luka and Jokic are both unbelievable. It's tough. If they face the Timberwolves, I'm taking the Timberwolves. As long as Anthony Edwards is back healthy, I'm taking Minnesota because of their size, because of their defense, because of the fact that Ant Edwards, especially with the playoff experience that he's got now, is just going to go at Luka's head on the defensive end. So none of what's happened in the last week has changed my outlook on the Lakers' postseason chances. It has changed how I view about Luka's MVP chances. You can't ignore that. And I don't like how we're basically throwing the Nuggets losing kind of by the wayside for Jokic, but we're not giving Luka's team credit for winning as it pertains to his MVP case. That's where I'm at. And also, too, again, it's to see LeBron still doing this is just freakish. The lob he caught, the Marcus Smart lob that he caught behind his head on the other side of the backboard, like that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, guys. How is he doing this at this stage? Unbelievable stuff. Before I move to our next topic, let's look at some March Madness scores, see what we got, because we'll be doing this in between segments throughout the show because there's games going on. Oh, Vols are still crushing Miami of Ohio. 17-point lead with about 8 minutes to go. So hopefully my Vols can finish that off. Utah State, Villanova are in a close game under 4 minutes to go. Nova's got a 2-point lead over Utah State, who, by the way, I think I go into the Sweet 16 in my bracket. So this is a really, really important spot. So hoping that Utah State can get the job done. The Santa Clara, Kentucky game, I was watching it live on my phone. Kentucky's down 2. Go down and get a short little floater off the glass. Santa Clara comes back down on the other way of the floor, hits a right wing 3, and it looks like, oh my gosh, the game's over. They're up 3, 2 seconds left. Guy for Kentucky takes a couple dribbles, couple steps beyond half court, banks it in at the buzzer to go to overtime, in which the Wildcats end up winning. Just theater. That's why they say this is March. That's why it's called March Madness. Unbelievable finish between Kentucky and Santa Clara. Okay, let's transition now to Cade Cunningham, because this just sucks. So Cade Cunningham, who's having, I think, indisputably a first-team All-NBA caliber season, who's led the Detroit Pistons to being the number 1 seed currently in the East. As of yesterday, according to Shams Charania, Cade Cunningham has been diagnosed with a collapsed lung and is expected to miss an extended period of time. And I think Brian Windhorst reported today on ESPN, best case scenario, he's ready for the start of the playoffs. So Detroit's like, if everything works out exactly the way we want to, he's ready for game 1 of the first round. So let's talk about the Pistons side of this and then get to the Cade and the 65 game requirement, because that's obviously a huge subplot of this. For the Pistons, they already weren't my pick to win the East. I was on the Knicks train before the season started. I'm on the Knicks train now. My biggest knock on Detroit, who have had an unbelievable season. J.B. Bickerstaff's a legit candidate for Coach of the Year. Jalen Duren, Sar Thompson, that's a legit squad right there. They remind me a lot of last year's Houston Rockets. Now, the reason I say that is Cade's a guy who can get his own shot anywhere on the floor. The Rockets had a guy like that, different position in a very different game, but Alperen Şengün. Ironically, both teams had a Thompson brother, which is funny. The Rockets got Amen Thompson. The Pistons got Ausar Thompson. You don't really trust anybody outside of their best player to be able to create their own shot. And that concerns me. And so it won't hurt them in the first round. If they face off against Charlotte, who's just good on both ends of the floor, to me, Charlotte's a little too green to go into, be playing basketball into May in the second round, but maybe I'm wrong. I think the Pistons can, with Cade in a limited role, survive the first round. Worst case in 6 games. In the second round, though, okay, you're facing a Cavs team that's a great defensive team, but James Harden's a playoff choker, so you're not sure. You're in a very strange, kind of weird spot, because the thing that concerns me the most about Cade in this, because I do think he's going to be back at some point, is when you're talking about a collapsed lung, when you're talking about anything involving that, you're going to it's going to take a while to get conditioning back up. We talk about that with knee injuries or with guys that are out for the last month and a half of the regular season. Like, okay, they got to get their normal rhythm to where they can play the same amount of minutes that they're used to playing. JB Bickerstaff's going to kind of have to ease Cade Cunningham back into the lineup with this injury once he does come back. So that definitely puts a damper on Detroit's chances. I'm not saying they can't win the East. I'm saying this definitely hurts it. The bigger conversation to me is the 65-game requirement. So for those that don't know, a few years ago, the NBA, due to a surge in load management, due to a surge in people saying, gosh, like the best players aren't always available because the medical training staffs, and by the way, that's who it is, are sitting these guys out. And so the NBA says, okay, we're going to create an incentive for these training staffs, for these teams, to allow these guys to be on the floor as much as they possibly can. Doesn't mean you can't take the occasional game off on the second night of a back-to-back, but you need to be available over the course of the season if you're healthy. So Adam Silver, the NBA, said, we're going to put a 65-game minimum requirement. 65, you got to play at least 65 out of the 82 regular season games. If you do, you are eligible for all, postseason awards. So MVP, first team All-NBA, all that stuff, which greatly affects your ability for future contracts in your career, for max contracts and what have you. Well, Cade Cunningham, who was not going to win league MVP, but was going to be in the top 5 on some ballots, was absolutely going to be first team All-NBA, because he had a collapsed lung. That's now gone. And by the way, that's the case, not the injury per se, but the availability. We'll show you. Do we have the graphic? Here we go. We'll show you the graphic about guys that are not going to be able to make All-NBA this season or be in the MVP discussion or race, I should say, because they didn't reach the 65-game requirement due to legitimate injury. Show the list. So LeBron, Giannis, Steph, Cade Cunningham, because Cade's not going to play the rest of the regular season, ineligible. Devin Booker, he misses 2 more games. Can't be a postseason award winner. Nikola Jokic, who some people might think is the league MVP, he misses 2 more, ineligible, despite the fact that he suffered an injury a few months ago people thought was season ending. Thank God for him and the Nuggets it wasn't. But because of that, something totally out of his control, he might not be a postseason award winner. Kawhi Leonard's having maybe the best season of his career. Certainly post-Toronto championship. He misses 2 more games. Gone. Wemby. Look at the job Wemby's done this season. Misses 3 more games. Cannot be a postseason, not eligible for postseason awards. Ant Edwards and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, it's much less of a chance. Although Ant, he needs to miss 6 more games. Ant's out about a week or 2 with an injury. So Ant could miss. He might be having the best season of his, or best or second best season of his career. If God forbid, knock on wood, God forbid something happens to Shai, and he misses enough time, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander might not be back-to-back league MVP. They're always with these big sweeping changes in sports, in newly implemented policies in American government and what have you. There are always, even if it's a well-intentioned thing, there are always going to be unintended consequences. The NBA said, hey, we're going to put the 65-game requirement to say there needs to be an incentive for the training staff to allow these guys to be on the floor to be available for these games. Okay. The unfortunate unintended consequence of that is if a guy suffers a legitimate injury, despite being one of the stories, if you had to tell the story of the 2025-2026 NBA regular season, again, put the list of guys back up there, you can't tell it without Cade Cunningham. You cannot tell it without Jokic and Wemby and Kawhi Leonard, who's been awesome this season. Steph, y'all know I'm the biggest Steph Curry fan in the world. I'm going to talk about Steph at the end of the show. Steph hasn't played since January. Like, I'm kind of okay with that. I don't even know if Steph's going to play 50 games this year. So, like, that's okay. Like, there's a certain amount where it's like, God, if he only played 45 games, he probably should. LeBron James, obviously not an MVP candidate this season, but you're telling me he's not been one of the 15 best players in the league when he's been out there? Because I think he has been. Same applies to Giannis. Wemby, the job that he's done, I mean, by season's end, Wemby might be the face of the league. And if, God forbid, he misses 3 more games, let's say, God forbid, turns his ankle, misses a week, can't be in the MVP race. Can't be up for Defensive Player of the Year, despite the fact that he should win it easily this year, maybe unanimously. He can't be first-team All-NBA. Adam Silver. And by the way, Cade Cunningham, collapsed lung. He gets basically rammed in the back when he's not looking on a loose ball against the Washington Wizards the other night. Gone for the rest of the regular season. He can't be eligible for postseason awards, which again, as I want to reiterate this, affects guys' contracts in future years. If you make so many All-NBAs or potentially if you win league MVP, that affects your future money. Adam Silver has an obligation, I think, as the commissioner of the league, to unilaterally say, okay, this rule is well-intentioned. It has some unintended consequences. We're going to get rid of it. And part of the reason we're going to get rid of it as well is not just because, man, injuries that are out of these guys' control, Cade, Jokic, Wemby. But I think more than anything, if I'm a voter for the NBA postseason awards, trust me to be able to, on my own judgment, to say, these are the 15, if we're talking about All-NBA, first, second, third team, I can be able to decipher these were the 15 best players in the league this season. For MVP, this was the most valuable player, second most, third, just go on down from there. Trust me as a voter, as somebody who's watched all of the games, or not all of the games, but enough of the games to have a good feeling and understanding for what this season has been to be able to decipher that for myself. Don't take that power out of my hands as a voter for these postseason awards. I don't think he'll do it, to be honest, because Adam Silver very much seems like a by the book, basically till I die type of commissioner. Okay, I mean, knock yourself out. Like, there have been a lot of great leaders in world history who didn't always do everything by the book, and people were better off for it. I mean, when Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, wasn't totally legal. Thank God he did it. It led to the 13th Amendment, and there were things that had to get passed. But that was the first big step in order to abolishing slavery. Now, that's a political issue, but sometimes you got to break the rules in order to get the best possible result. And in this case, like, Adam Silver has an obligation to do that as the commissioner. There are, and I talked about this last week. Go check out my Steve Kerr video if you haven't seen it, as it pertains to how the league can be able to combat load management, can be able to combat injuries and what have you. This ain't one of them. And trust the voters to be able to decide for themselves. Like, am I supposed to look at a guy as less valuable or less of a great player, one of the top 15 players in the league, if he played 61 games instead of 65? Now, if we're talking 45, okay, that's different. He missed almost half the games. You look at that differently. He needs to lift this before voting commences, because if Cade Cunningham was not one of the 15 best players in the league this season, then I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. And some technicality should not keep him away from them. See, we got a comment on Instagram. Can Cade come back from this injury by the playoffs? Again, Brian Windhorst reported, I think today on ESPN, that, yeah, it looks like best case scenario, he's ready to go game 1 of the Eastern Conference playoffs. We hope that's the case. And again, the biggest thing for Detroit is, even when he does come back, because of what this injury is, but the fact it's a lung issue, it's going to take some time to be able to get his conditioning back to where it needs to be. Like, I already wasn't picking Detroit to win the Eastern Conference as is. I wasn't. That's no disrespect to them. I think they can win it this season. They can be able to compete in the future. I just think the way the team's constructed now, great defensively. Outside of Cade, who do you trust to consistently get their own shot? And at the end of the day, you got to play defense. So I don't buy the Lakers or the Nuggets in the playoffs. But a lot of this comes down to, man, who can get a bucket in the biggest spots. And if you take Cade away on a consistent basis, nobody really can for the Detroit Pistons. So that's where I'm at. Looks like we got a comment here on my man, Metropolitan Report. Shout out to my guy, Alfred Parso Jr., did a great show the other night. The Cade Cunningham injury is a huge blow, may potentially derail the Pistons down the stretch. Now, let me check the standings in the East, because they're still a good enough team to where they can be able to finish well down the stretch. Yeah, they got a 4-game lead on Boston. I don't think they're going to be bad enough to blow that. Like, they play my Warriors tonight. I hope my Warriors win, but I doubt it. They got games against the Pelicans down the stretch. Who else they got? The Bucks, Pacers, and then they've got some tough games, such as against the Lakers. Hawks are playing good basketball right now. The Timberwolves, the Thunder, Toronto's likely gonna be a playoff team this season. Timberwolves again. So there are some tough games down the stretch here, but they're a good enough team to where they can eke out some wins. A 4-game cushion on Boston. Boston will lose some games down the stretch. So the Pistons should still be the 1 seed. But Cade being out is a tough blow to this team. By the way, yeah, there you go. Alfred's saying there's no main score on that team outside of Cade, and so with him out, that's a big loss. Again, shout out to my guy Alfred. Check out the Metropolitan Report. Great stuff on his channel. I will have to admit, and Alfred and I talked about this recently. I will have to admit, I think Alfred was just a little too hard on Nolan McLean. I get it; he's a Met. I understand that, but it was not Nolan McLean's fault. He gave up 2 runs. It wasn't a disaster. Wasn't his fault that this juggernaut, the Avengers offense for Team USA in the World Baseball Classic just went kaput. What, they bat 100? I think they bat 100 on the dot against Venezuela. If not for Bryce Harper, we would have gotten shut out. It was embarrassing. But yeah, check out the Metropolitan Report. Check out my guy Alfred. He put some unbelievable stuff out there. We're going to take a 1-minute break. When we come back, I really can't wait for this Giannis saga to be over. I really, truly can't wait. I'll discuss that. We've got some more information on it thanks to an article that came out this morning from Ramona Shelburne. Also about the Spurs on a roll. Victor Wembanyama hit a game winner last night, his first. Talk about some March Madness stuff going on. At the end of the day, show why I think it's a good idea for Steph Curry to come back. Discuss all of that in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Very, very good news before we get into the Giannis segment. The Utah State Aggies got the job done against Villanova today, 86-76. I do have Utah State going to the Sweet 16 in my bracket. I think they're going to upset Arizona in the second round. So very, very excited to see that. And of course, more importantly than that, my Tennessee Volunteers, 20-point lead with a minute and change to go over Miami of Ohio. So the Vols are going to be advancing to play in the round of 32 on Sunday against Virginia. There's not a time for that game yet. I'll be honest, I did have Tennessee losing to Virginia in the second round. I have Virginia actually going in the Final Four. They had some trouble with Wright State earlier in the day, but yeah, I hope I'm wrong. I mean, if Jacoby Gillespie can go off in that game the way he did today against Miami, Ohio, then okay, maybe we've got a shot. We're going to need to get more from the potential lottery pick, Nate Ament. But other than that, we got a shot. But given what Virginia showed in the regular season, especially the ACC tournament, I think their size is going to be a little bit too much for Tennessee. Hope I'm wrong, but that's kind of where I'm at. But at least my Vols will get at least one W in the NCAA tournament. All right. The story that never ends. Giannis Antetokounmpo. So, an article came out this morning from Ramona Shelburne of ESPN, who does an unbelievable job. And she spoke with the co-owners of the Bucks. Now, I won't get into the specific details of it. The article lays it out itself and details it much better than I would. The Bucks have a very strange, is it a Wisconsin thing? And like, the Packers don't have a central owner, like the city or the town owns it. It's not the case with the Bucks, but they've got the situation where there's like turnover every 6 years in the ownership group. I don't know. I don't know Jimmy Haslam, who's a garbage owner in his own right. I didn't with the Browns. I don't know that he had a huge stake in the Milwaukee Bucks, but that's, again, Ramona talks about in the article. Here's what's interesting. This is according to Ramona Shelburne. Milwaukee Bucks co-owners Wes Edens and Jimmy Haslam told ESPN in a joint 90-minute interview that they will decide the path to take with their two-time MVP together, that being Giannis, of course. And the most important factor will be whether Antetokounmpo signs the 4-year, $275 million extension he is eligible to receive on October 1st. Giannis is going to last year of his contract, said Edens, the team's controlling owner, until April 2028. So one of the things will happen, either he will be extended or he will be traded. So the Bucks clearly, and the article goes on to talk about how teams like the Warriors, the Lakers, I think the Timberwolves have positioned their cap in such a way to where they'd have enough cap space in the summer of 2027 to sign Giannis in free agency. Sounds like from the Bucks, they're like, he's not hitting free agency. Either he's signing an extension or we're moving him. Like, we're not going to lose him for nothing. That would make us, incompetent business people. So there's also the added component. The Bucks are 7.5 games out of the play-in. Like, their season's over. They're done. Giannis, who's out right now, is pushing to still get back on the court once he's healthy. The Bucks are probably like, we're not even going to make the play-in, man. Let's try and get as high of a draft pick as you can. Honest to God, respect to Giannis for saying, yeah, I don't care. I want to play anyway. Respect to that. Maybe he's of the mindset that maybe he knows this is it for me in Milwaukee. Let's give the fans one last show. Who knows? If that's not the case, and based on the initial, was it a trade request? Was it not? Shams came out about a week before the trade deadlines, like Giannis and the Bucks met, and they feel like, and this article talks about it, Giannis and the Bucks met, and they decided that it'd be best for both sides to part ways. And then Giannis, once he isn't traded, posts the DiCaprio Wolf of Wall Street meme where, it says, I'm not leaving. Like, I'm not leaving. Shams said you wanted to. And then he talked about with Malik Andrews in an interview not long after. I want to play with the Bucks and I want to contend for championships. I want both of those things. Giannis, it's harsh. It's really unfortunate, especially since you have won a championship with that franchise, albeit it was 5 years ago. But those things are mutually exclusive. You cannot remain with the Milwaukee Bucks and hope to contend for championships, at least in your prime. Now, if the Bucks are bad for the next few years, or at least mediocre, which honestly right now they're just kind of bad because Giannis has missed so much time this year, and they draft well, it's a great NBA draft coming up here, and they are able to develop these guys really quickly, put a nice group around Giannis. Maybe they contend when he's like 37, but he won't be peak top 5 player in the world Giannis anymore. So this is such a bizarre situation where you have an organization that seems to know what they want for their future with by the way, with a top 5 player in the world on their roster than said top 5 player in the world does. Where it's, again, people that are saying, oh, Giannis isn't the same. Man, in a year that's been ravaged by injuries, he's still averaging 28 and 9 on 60% shooting. He's still awesome. He's still an excellent defensive player. Probably not quite what he was, but it's still a huge factor on that end of the floor. Offensively, he's unstoppable at the rim. He's still a great player that you saw those trade offers the article talked about. And this, I had heard this from sources in the Bay Area, but the article confirmed it, that the Golden State Warriors were offering the Milwaukee Bucks 4 first-round picks, which, as far as I know, is the most you can offer as it pertains to draft capital. And so for the Bucks to be more sure of, okay, we either want to keep him, and if we can't keep him, if he doesn't sign the extension, we're going to move him. As opposed to Giannis, who's, I want to compete for championships and I want to win. And Also, I want to be with the Milwaukee Bucks. Hand to God. I can't speak for everybody. I can only speak for myself. I will not judge Giannis whatsoever. If he says, darn it, I'm a Buck. Like Dirk was a Mav, like Steph's a Warrior, and Duncan was a Spur. And like Kobe was a Laker. I'm a Milwaukee Buck. I'm spending the rest of my career here. Awesome. You've already got your championship, got multiple MVPs. Like, in a general sense, you've proved all you need to prove. You've gotten all the big accomplishments. You've even got a Defensive Player of the Year on your trophy case. I will also not judge Giannis if he says, I love Milwaukee. I've spent 13 years here, won a title, a lot of great memories. I love the fans. The fans love me. It's been a great relationship for over a decade. We just can't contend. We don't have that many assets. The team isn't very good. I want to contend for championships. I want to go to Minnesota or Miami or Golden State, like any of these teams, the Knicks. You got to choose one, man. Like this, the Giannis trade discussion has been going for a year and a half, it feels like. Certainly a year. I remember going back to last offseason, like, is Giannis going to get moved? Is it going to be, especially once Damian Lillard blew his Achilles, like, is Giannis going to? The fact that the Bucks, with Giannis in his prime on their roster, are saying it's kind of put up or shut up time. Either sign the extension or we're trading you. More than Giannis is sure about his future. It's such a bizarre set of circumstances. And Giannis can't have it all, man. He can't. It's unfortunate. He can in his prime, he can no longer compete for titles. They can't compete for the play-in tournament, for crying out loud, with the Milwaukee Bucks. And by the way, he's getting older. Injuries are coming with greater regularity. He plays a very physical brand of basketball. Like, kind of, again, put up or shut up. Like, where are we at? I think the Bucks are asking the same questions we are. Alfred in the comments. Just trade Giannis already. Tired of this long, drawn-out saga. I think everybody is. It's just, and we're not going to have a definitive answer at the earliest until, this summer, till, I guess, July 4th or whatever, July 1st, whenever the offseason begins. It's just the conflicting back and forth nature of what's being reported. Giannis hasn't denied any of it, but then when the trade deadline passes, he's like, let's go. I'm a Milwaukee Buck. I'm like, I thought you wanted to leave. It's so weird. It's really weird. And all I got to say, and shout out to my guy, Barry Grant Jr., All Even Podcast. Check his stuff out. He's said this. I'll piggyback off this a little bit. Let's keep it a buck, guys. If LeBron had done this, LeBron's this diva and team operator. If he had done this, I don't know if I want to stay in Cleveland. Maybe I do. Like, what are we doing? Again, it's a saga, like Alfred said. It's a saga that won't end. Let's look at, actually, you know what? We'll do March Madness updates after this next segment. Let's shift to a team with another great big man, but they have a legitimate chance to win the championship. The San Antonio Spurs with my man, Victor Wembanyama, who had his first game winner in his NBA career last night. We could show you what Wemby did last night against the Phoenix Suns. He was amazing. 34 points, 12 rebounds, 3 steals, shot 50% for the field, 100%, by the way, 12 for 12 from the free throw line, and the first game-winning shot of his career. By the way, that win, that win officially clinched a playoff spot for the San Antonio Spurs. Now, they're locked in as one of the top 2 seeds. They'd have to have the collapse of collapses in order for the Lakers to catch them. They're like 7 games ahead of LA for that 3 spot. I think they're about 3.5 games back right now of the Oklahoma City Thunder. My guess is, because OKC's on a roll right now, despite a ton of injuries, which to me really bolsters Shea's MVP case. But the Spurs' worst case scenario, they're the 2 seed. So they're going to have home court for at least the first 2 rounds. And I'm here to tell you today, folks, I know I saw a stat today that said the San Antonio Spurs roster, the entire, or at least among their starters, among guys that play every night consistently, consistent minutes, they have a combined 78 games of playoff experience. 71 of those games come from Harrison Barnes. Harrison Barnes obviously won a championship with my Warriors in 2015, played a lot of playoff games during that run, in between the run, after the run. He was in a 7-game series with the Kings. Like, Harrison Barnes played in playoff series. The other 7 games come from De'Aaron Fox, who has one playoff series on his resume, also against the Warriors back in 2023. That's it. Wemby's never smelled it. Stephon Castle, Vassell, these guys have never been in that spot. And so I get that sort of trepidation that, I don't know, can they, we know they're good, barring a first-round loss to the Suns, which I don't see happening, they're going to be, we're going to look at this year as, oh, they took a big step in the right direction towards winning championships with Wemby. But the proof is in the pudding. And if you look at what the San Antonio Spurs have done since the beginning of February, which right around that time is right before All-Star break, that's kind of when we have a pretty good sense of who's good, who has a chance to go deep, who's got a shot. So, yeah, they could win a playoff series, and they just don't have it this year. The Spurs got it and then some. Show what they've been since February 1st. The best team in the NBA. They had the best record in the NBA, the best offensive rating in the NBA, the best point differential in the NBA. And then from there, 4th best defensive rating, okay, 4th best field goal percentage, 2nd in 3-point percentage, 4th in opponent field goal percentage, and tied for 10th in opponent's 3-point percentage. They'll lock you up. They could score at will. They're good in clutch situations. They play smart basketball down the stretch. Like this is a well-coached team. This is a deep team, a young team, young legs. Like playoff fatigue, I don't think is going to be, in a conditioning sense, not the fact that the only thing you worry about is Wemby in his first playoff series. Wemby's put on weight, put on muscle since coming into the league, as almost everybody does, because when they come in, they're kids, they're 19 years old. You do worry about, and I think we saw this with the game about a month ago against the Knicks that I talked about in the show, is will physicality bother Wemby? Is that something where, yeah, conditioning won't be a problem. He's in shape, but just the gradual wear and tear, guys beating up on him over the course of a 7-game playoff series, and then another long drawn-out playoff series. Once you get to a team like Oklahoma City, who we know play physical, that could wear on him. I understand that. What I would counter is by saying this: who in the Western Conference can truly provide that from a physical perspective? Because if you look at East, the Pistons definitely can. The Knicks, we literally saw them do it to Wemby at MSG a few weeks ago, and the Celtics can. In the West, OKC can, but OKC's most physical players are their wing guys. RSGA, Dort, Caruso. It's not Chet, and it's not Hartenstein. So if you look beyond there, the Lakers, amazing offensive team. They're going to beat you up on the defense. God knows DeAndre Ayton ain't beating nobody up on either end of the floor. So don't have to worry about that in a potential second-round series if we get Lakers-Spurs. The Timberwolves could, in theory, but the only way you play Minnesota is if they fall to the 6, upset the Lakers, or if you get the 1. Which, if you get the 1, that means you would have leapfrogged OKC. We feel even better about your chances. Houston, especially with Steven Adams was healthy, I feel differently. Steven Adams will wear you down over the course of a 7-game series. No Steven Adams. That's not going to be an issue or concern. And Kevin Durant, much as I love him, is somebody who himself struggles with physicality. Denver, Jokic isn't going to beat you up, on the offensive end or defensive end over the course of a series. He may wear you down in terms of just going at you over and over and over, but he's not going to be somebody that just, Jokic is prone to the occasional dirty play, but by and large, he's not someone he's not Rasheed Wallace or something. And then from there, Phoenix, Dylan Brooks might try something stupid, but he's a guard. Like, that's not going to be an issue. And the Clippers can't really either. Warriors, Blazers, like, that's not going to be an issue. And so I think if you're a Spurs fan, the biggest thing you have concern, the two biggest things you have concern about, experience, that's a legit one. I get that. But one of the things that comes, with lack of experience is lack of understanding how to deal with playoff physicality. The teams that could best exploit that are in the East. And you only have to get to the finals. You only got to play one of those. Boston, Detroit, or the Knicks. One of those three is coming out of the East. It's not going to be the Cavaliers. It's not going to be them. Now, if you worry about that in the finals, okay, that's a legit concern. I don't think it's going to be a concern in the West. So I say today what I've said for a couple months now, because y'all know I picked the Warriors, my beloved Warriors, to win the championship before the season started if everybody is healthy. Well, Jimmy blows his ACL in January, and later that month, Steph suffers runner's knee and hasn't played since. So I'm like, yeah, we're cooked. We're toast. So I got to have somebody else coming out of the West, and it's the San Antonio Spurs. I've said that for a while now. I'm sticking with the Knicks. I think we get a rematch of the 1999 NBA Finals. Knicks, Spurs, Hopefully it'll be a better series this go around than it was in the lockout shortened season. I think it will be. I think that thing goes 6 or 7. I'm down. I'm excited about that. But I really believe in San Antonio. Length, shooting ability. The thing that's really interesting about Wemby, too, I saw this stat today. Probably should have made it a graphic, but I'll just tell you. The first, 4 months of the season, Wemby averaged about 5 3-point attempts per game. So he shot about 5 threes a game at a 34% clip, which is fine. Not especially for a big, that's not bad at all. His attempts have gone up in the month of March they've leapfrogged from 5 attempts from 3 a game to 8 attempts from 3 per game, and his percentage has gone up. So as the volume has increased, the efficiency has increased. Usually it's the other way around. He's shooting 38% from 3-point range, which is excellent, and for a big is amazing from outside. And you've seen his offensive game grow. You've seen it just mature. Like he's more comfortable getting to his spots. We know he's unstoppable in the paint, basically, because he's 7'5". But we knew he could shoot for the perimeter. That's what made him a unicorn coming from France. In the draft a few years ago, that's why he was called the best NBA prospect since LeBron James. He's lived up to that thus far. But my goodness, once this kid, he's 22. Once he really refines his game on the offensive end of the floor, add that to he's the best rim protector since Hakeem. maybe God rest his soul. Oh my gosh, what's his name? Oh my God, Dikembe Mutombo. I don't know. I was thinking no in my head. We miss him every day, but he's that good protecting the basket. If he's on the other end, averaging like 27 a game, I mean, and he's pulling up from 30 and he's scoring at will down. What are you going to do? That's why when you have folks in the media saying, hey, he could be on a GOAT trajectory, I'm not going to go there yet, but you see the signs. And if he wins his first championship at 22 years old, yeah, we got to start having some conversation, not about whether he's in the GOAT discussion now, but whether he could eventually get there in 10 to 15 years. I think the Spurs are going to. I think the Spurs are going to win the West. I would almost certainly pick them to beat the Knicks in the finals. We got to see the playoffs play themselves out. But I've reiterated it a million times. Spurs at the West, Knicks at the East. Rematch of 1999. I'm here for it. Okay, before we go to break, let's look at what's going on in March Madness. Currently, there's no games going on in the men's bracket. So Thursday, let's just scroll through. TCU, Ohio State. I have this really, I'm not going to recap every single game, but the games that stood out, I'm going to mention. TCU, Ohio State, that was the first game played yesterday. I have this really, really bad streak of, I think, 2-3 years going strong prior to this March Madness tournament where I always got the first game wrong. Oh, I mean, without fail, like my bracket dies game 1. Like, I'm like, gosh, can we at least get to the afternoon? Can we get to dinner time? Before my bracket is not perfect. So TCU surviving at the end with the game-winning shot late. Kudos to them. Nebraska. This shocked me. Really, truly shocked me. Nebraska got their first NCAA tournament win in their program's history. If I read that right, like that is shocking. They, beat Troy badly. Louisville survived South Florida. I had South Florida in an upset, so that was unfortunate. High Point over Wisconsin. How about that? The upset of the day yesterday, 12 seed High Point getting the W against the Wisconsin Badgers, who I had going to the Sweet 16. So that really put a hurting on my bracket. Shout out to the kid, Chase Johnston. Okay. I think everyone has probably heard his story by now, but this is a guy who's an amazing 3-point shooter. Like I'm watching that game yesterday, and it's not just that he's a great shooter, it's how fast the release is. It's like Klay Thompson level. I'm dead serious. Like it's in his hands, in the bucket, in a blink. I don't even know how this is possible. He had not made a 2-point shot all year. And then off a steal, or off a, missed basket by the Badgers, throw an outlet pass to him. And let me tell you, listen, anybody who's played basketball knows. Maybe I'm speaking for experience. I don't know, or speaking from bad experience. I don't know. When you're in transition, nobody in front of you, it's just you and the hoop for a layup, and you're going full speed. You are like, just don't smoke this. Don't smoke that. Just lay it up off the glass. This guy tries like, screw it. I'm going finger roll. lays it in. I don't know if they're the Badgers. Badgers get stopped at the end and High Point advances. And by the way, the fact that the kid wears number 99, y'all know that I'm a Christian. And the fact that this guy, he wears number 99, the reason for that is because it's a reference to the parable told by Jesus in the New Testament, of the parable of Jesus leaving the 99, because Jesus is the good shepherd, leaving the 99 to go find the one. Like that's awesome. And so good for him, good for High Point. Who do they have in their next game? I'm curious. I haven't checked that area of the bracket. They play Arkansas, and the Razorbacks are an 11-point favorite. So tall task ahead, but really cool upset and really cool story for the kid. Couldn't believe that was his first 2 of the year. Duke survived Siena by the skin of their teeth. They're down 11 at the half. And I mean, the kid for Siena, who's interviewed by Tracy Wolfson at halftime, is like, with God, anything is possible. Like, oh my gosh, they're gonna pull this thing off. And then Duke just on raw talent advantage, just kind of scrapped and clawed their way out of this one. Vanderbilt beat McNeese, Michigan State beat North Dakota State, VCU, and what a comeback this was. Down 19 in the second half. I did take VCU to upset North Carolina because North Carolina without, I think Caleb Wilson is the kid's name, who's might be a top 4 pick in the draft, might be a top 3 pick in the draft, depending on how it plays out. With just the tumult in that program right now, I'm not sure if they're going to keep their coach. I think I'm going VCU. And so for them to win that game 82-78 in overtime, unbelievable stuff. What else do we have? Texas beating BYU and beating Debansa, who's might go number 1 overall in the draft. A&M beating St. Mary's did surprise me. What else do we have? St. Louis just kicking Georgia's teeth in. My gosh. I mean, dogs weren't doing a lot of barking in that game. And then as for the games today, Iowa-Clemson just began. So we're early in that one. My Vols knocking off Miami of Ohio. I already talked about Kentucky and Santa Clara earlier in the show, but holy smokes, game of the tournament thus far. What else do we have? Not really that many crazy entertaining games. I haven't gotten a chance to watch the end of Utah State versus Villanova, but I did take Utah State in that game, and I did take them to make the Sweet 16 because I think they're going to upset Arizona. But yeah, good stuff. And then as far as the women's side of the bracket, that those games have begun today. The first couple of rounds of the NCAA women's tournament, a lot of blowouts. I mean, UConn, who's mine and I think basically America's pick to cruise to the national title, and understandably so. They've won like 55 games in a row. Let me make sure I'm getting this right. UConn, the 1 seed, is playing University of Texas San Antonio. Whatever you're guessing they're a favorite by, you can go up. They're 55.5-point favorites. So, and you see a lot of really big lines like this because there is a talent gap in the women's game, more so than the men's game. Once you get to the Sweet 16, though, the product's just as good, if not better. Especially, I mean, the last few years last year with Paige and UConn, year before that with Caitlin Clark leading Iowa to the national championship and then losing to South Carolina. The year before that, Caitlin Clark getting Iowa to the Natty and then losing to LSU in what was a great game. So it's as far, I've said this for a few years, from a shot-making perspective, I'll be honest, from an aesthetic standpoint, as far as how they play the game, I tend to, if the teams are good, I honestly enjoy the women's game sometime more than the men's game at the college level. But it's what I've always said too, and then we'll go to break. I've said this about college basketball, that the quality between hitting the NBA, it's night and day, which is like, yeah, obviously you're talking about college, professional, but college football, if we're talking about some of the great programs, it's a good product on the field. Like it's a lot of these guys are going to play pro and what have you. College basketball, it's not the case. And so, but the reason it gets the buzz that it does this time of year, March Madness and all of it, is because, hey, every single game's game 7. You win, you advance, you lose, you're done. And there's a sense of urgency and there's excitement that comes to that. That's people are always going to tune in for that. That's why I laughed for years. I'm like, who cares about I'm boycotting the NFL. Like, hey, no, you're not. Second of all, the reason the NFL is king is because there are so few games. Because it's a 17-game schedule as opposed to 82 in the NBA, 162 in Major League Baseball. Sense of urgency sells. It always has. And so that was really dope to see. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I did want to discuss Steph Curry, who looks like he's likely to come back from his knee injury sometime maybe in the next week for my Golden State Warriors, who obviously have no chance to do anything in the playoffs, but I still think Steph coming back would be a good thing for the team. I'll discuss that in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Before I get to the Steph Curry segment, before we get out of here, I just want to say this, because every once in a while, again, I've always said this is about a 90% sports show, 10% whatever's hot, whatever's going on. Like, that's why I've done in the last month or so reviews of the FX TV show Love Story, which, by the way, episode 8 came out yesterday. Watched it. I'm going to wait till Monday to do the review so that everybody can maybe watch tonight or over the weekend, what have you, and then do the review on Monday. Just a kick in the gut. Oh my God. I'm as excited to review this episode as I have any of them. It was that good. It was that moving. It made you feel a lot of emotions. And so, yeah, stay tuned for that. The review of episode 7 is on the YouTube channel now. Feel free to check it out, as well as the reviews of the other episodes of the show. So 10%, I talked about the Oscars the other night, and occasionally, probably once a month, I'll dabble in the snake-infested waters of politics. And this one actually happens to coincide with sports. So and I won't spend a lot of time on this. It's just, as a sports fan, as a diehard sports fan, I'm begging those. Listen, if you like Trump, that's your prerogative. That's it's what we love in this country is freedom. You support your guy. Please stop saying he likes sports or that he's a big sports fan. He's not. He knows nothing about sports. Today he signed an executive order, and I'm going to quote him directly. So first of all, he talks about how he's got so much more power in second terms and signing executive orders. I thought Republicans hated that, but whatever. He said, I'm going to sign an executive order to ensure that the second Trump cut the mics. Dang, my mic went out for a second. Goodness. Okay, we'll start over that. Donald Trump, when discussing a new executive order, which again, I thought Republicans hated, but whatever. I'm going to sign an executive order to ensure that the second Saturday in December is preserved exclusively. Nobody is playing football. Not Ohio State versus Notre Dame, not LSU versus Alabama. Nobody is going to play football for 4 hours during that very special time of the year in December. It's preserved forever for the Army-Navy game. If you don't want to watch football, you don't have to. But if you want to watch football, you're only watching one game. You're not watching 19 different games. And I guess my question, I know people in his administration are basically not allowed to push back on him to the point where he literally decides what shoes they wear. But did anybody there, I'm sure that he's got sports fans in his cabinet or advisors. America's full of sports fans. World's full of it. Did anybody mention the fact that, Army-Navy's the only game the second Saturday in December every year? In fact, it's kind of like a college football tradition where Army-Navy kicks off at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and usually from like Washington, usually from DC or from Philadelphia or Baltimore. Usually they play that game, and then that night you tune in from New York City to watch the Heisman Trophy presentation. So it's like the beginning of the end of the college football season is Army Navy and then Heisman Trophy ceremony. Conference championships have been played in the modern era. College football playoff, it's already been set. He mentions LSU, Alabama. LSU, Alabama play in November. Ohio State and Notre Dame, not only do they not play every year, when they have played, it's been in like October. I mean, there are literally set times of the year in which teams play. Like Iowa State, always playing week 2. Tennessee, Alabama, the rivalry is literally called the third Saturday in October. Literally. There have been some years where they haven't had it then, but it's always played in the middle of October. Always. Rivalry week. The Saturday after Thanksgiving. Bama, Auburn. Ohio State, Michigan. For my team, Tennessee, Vanderbilt. Florida State. It's all the big rivalry games. So, I hate to break this to you, Mr. President. Nobody was playing football that day, at least college football. I don't know if there's NFL games going on. In college football, nothing was going on except for that game. Everybody's attention is glued to the TV. Everyone who's a college football fan, their attention is glued to watching Army Navy. You didn't have to sign an executive order. So this is why I said, listen, if he wants to sign it, knock yourself out. Doesn't change anything, but he can sign it. I just really, really ask, if you like Trump, knock yourself out. Things are really going well right now. Knock yourself out. Please stop saying this guy's a sports fan. As a sports fan, I'm offended. There's plenty of executive orders he could sign regarding sports. This ain't one of them. This changes literally nothing. So, I mean, goodness. Oh, man, because he goes to all these games. You think listen, I'm not asking him to be Bill Belichick in the booth, but, what are we talking about? Just, he may like the prestige of sports, the bigness. That's why sports is so popular. It is the most successful sporting events feel like that. Events feel big. You see the celebrities at the game. You feel the crowd's energy and the players are amped up. And college football does as good of a job, maybe better than any sport in America at that. Maybe he likes that. Good for him. I love it. Buddy, this guy ain't a sports fan. So I'm sorry, he's not. If he didn't know that this was a thing already, I don't know. It's ridiculous. Okay, back to our regular schedule programming. Steph Curry. So according to Shams, and this has been like if you're on Warriors Twitter, which can be a very, very depressing place sometimes, especially this season. It's become like an annual tradition, or not annual tradition, but like a bi-weekly tradition where you're on there and you're just waiting for the Shams update. All right, Steph's been reevaluated and he's out another 5 games. Okay, back to watching Brandon Pajemski, Will Richard, and Quentin Post. Nothing against those guys. Those guys have played their hearts out, but it's not the season we expected to have. But it's been reported from Shams, from Marcus Spears, from Mark J. Spears, that Steph really, really, really wants to come back, and it looks like his knee will be healthy enough to where he would be able to come back. Now, I want to say this in the front end. If there's any, I don't want to say if there's any, there's a chance you could get hurt there's a chance I could get hurt if I stand up right now. Like there's always risk. If there's a reasonable chance that he could re-aggravate that knee by coming back, then everything I'm about to say is void. I don't want to see Steph until October of 2026 playing basketball. If that's not the case, if there's if there's minimal chance of re-injury and Steph good to go, 100% or at least as much as he can be, I think it's good for the Golden State Warriors for him to come back. And the reason I say that is this. If you look at the standings right now in the West, the Warriors are currently the 10th seed. Now, the Warriors, Clippers, and Trailblazers are all tied in the loss column. They all have 36 losses as of right now. There's games we play tonight, but as we see today, they're tied with 36 losses. So it's right there in front of the Warriors to be able to get the 8 seed. And then if you beat Phoenix, who's pretty much locked into the 7, all things considered, if you beat Phoenix on the road, and the Warriors have had some success against the Suns this year, you're the 7 seed and you're in the playoffs. Now you're like, Bryson, they're not going anywhere. They either have to play OKC or San Antonio and they're dead in the water. Well, Steph has been awesome. He has 2 40-point games against the Spurs this year. So I'm not saying they beat them. I'm saying Steph's never been gentleman swept in his career, so it'd at least go 6. But even if you don't win, I think it's really, really good for the Golden State Warriors, for the Pajemskis of the world, for the Quentin Post, for the Will Richards of the world, some of the younger guys that, Guy Santos, who's got an extension last month. Kudos to him. Great hustle, guys. Improved his 3-point shot, all of it. The more playoff minutes those guys can get, the better. Because realistically or unrealistically, Mark J. Spears also reported this, that Steph's expecting the Warriors to bring in a heavy hitter this offseason. Whether that's Giannis, LeBron, Kawhi, somebody. Steph's expecting that by March of 2027, the roster is going to be him, Jimmy Butler, said big star, and potentially on a discount, Draymond Green. That's what Steph expects. Now, whether the Warriors can deliver, let's see. I hope they can, but let's see. If you do add, by the grace of God, if you add Giannis Antetokounmpo, and it's Steph, Giannis, Jimmy, and in a reduced role because he has declined as a player, although he is still valuable in the defensive end, Draymond Green. Oh, that team can win the West. It absolutely can. Your bench guys now have playoff experience. Or in the case of guys like Pods or Quentin Post, who were on the playoff run last year, Moses Moody, more playoff experience. So I think, and folks that are saying, well, what's the point of getting playoff experience if A, you're not going anywhere, and B, if you were to tank, you get a high draft pick in what's a great draft. Steve, we literally just saw this situation play out in real time with Jonathan Kuminga. Steve Kerr likes coaching older players. Not guys that are Steph's age per se, although Steph's still awesome, but Steve Kerr likes coaching guys who know how to play the game of basketball, because the Warriors run a very, very cerebral style of offense. That's why Draymond Green has been as successful as he's been, despite some physical limitations. And so if you add a young player in there, it's not to say they wouldn't be good. It's to say, well, they'll never come close to their peak while Steph's still at his, and everything in Golden State, as it should be, is on Steph's timeline. It's why they were willing to give up 4 unprotected first-round picks to the Milwaukee Bucks for Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's why. And so, long as Steph's good, long as Steph's ready to go, in a week or so, the hope is that he'll be ready by the end of the month. I think it's better that he's on the floor than not. And so, and also too, let's see what he looks like with Porzingis and Draymond. It gives the Warriors a sense, it creates some more clarity for offseason decisions, seeing Steph on the floor like with a Porzingis or with some of these other guys in big playoff games. Because with no Jimmy Butler, you're not going anywhere. You're just not. If Jimmy was there, I'd feel differently. He's not there. But I think it would be smart for the Warriors to allow Steph Curry to come back. If he wants to play, if he wants to come back, and the knee is not at risk of being further compromised that could affect him next season or affect this offseason for him to get ready for next year, if that's not an issue, yeah, let him come back. I'm completely on board with that. So, and if nothing else, selfishly as a fan, listen, Steph's 37. He's still awesome. He's still averaging 27 a game. He's a great player, but he's not playing too much longer. He's in year 17. It's not going to last forever. So the moral of the story, the more Steph Curry that the world gets to watch playing basketball, generally the better. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, as well as on Facebook, Twitch, and on X. Maybe on Instagram, may not be on Instagram, depends on the case. Appreciate everybody stopping by on a Friday, on a March Madness Friday. I'm sure we're all going to be doing nothing but kicking back, watching basketball tonight, Saturday night, or not Saturday night, all day Saturday when the round of 32 starts on the men's side, and then on Sunday, by Sunday night, the Sweet 16 will be set. So very, very excited about all of that. Have a great weekend, everybody. Please continue to stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. Don't sign Aaron Rodgers, Pittsburgh. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.